Well, Roy, we knew the Twins were going to trade for a pitcher at some point. We figured that Jorge Polanco was the most logical trade chip, and the Twins do trade Polanco for a pitcher. It wasn't exactly the deal we all anticipated. I think we all thought and maybe even hoped it would be Polanco for and maybe another prospect or two for a number 2 or 3 starter, kind of more replace Sonny Gray. Instead, it's a trade that gives less instant gratification, but could be good in the future. I want to get your take on that. This is Chin Music. This is our baseball show at talkwork.com. Today it's Roy Smalley, former Twins star, current Twins broadcaster, and I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. Lavelle might be joining us when his schedule clears here in a little bit. Producers Brandon Morton. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Aquarius Home Services and let you know the best way to listen to this show or any show at talkwork.com is to subscribe at your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And thanks for listening to this show and all the shows at the network. We do appreciate it. So, Roy, the Twins end up trading Polanco, a popular guy, for Justin Topa, a very good sinker ball right-hand reliever, Anthony DeSclafani. I know I'm going to mess up his name a lot, but you know who he is. Right-hander who probably slot send as their 5th starter. Outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, who might be now the Twins' 4th best prospect in a very good farm system. And right-handed pitcher Darren Bowen, who's either low-ranked or unranked pitching prospect. Plus they got cash, which either could benefit them as they try to make moves or just make up for the expenses that they have to incur. So give me your initial reaction to that trade.
My initial reaction was, wait, what? I'm with you. I thought that there would be bigger names from a pitching standpoint. But then what happened? As I've thought about it, as I've looked at it and thought about it, I think the Twins made a pretty good deal. And here's why. That wasn't the first deal they talked about with it. They didn't do the first thing that came down the road. They've been shopping Polanco, I'm sure. They've been talking to people. And I think that, as you talk to people about potential trades, the market values kind of start becoming apparent to you, right? I mean, what's probably going to be the deal that we can get with it for Jorge. And so it looked at that from that perspective. They got a big league pitcher that admittedly will be probably the 5th starter, but you need a 5th starter and you need a serviceable 5th starter. And I think with DeSclafani, they know what they're going to get at the bottom end of the range. I think he's been injured a lot. I think there could be. I think the good news, bad news is when he has been healthy, he's been a low 3 point something ERA guy, and when he's not been healthy, it's in the mid, anywhere from 4 to higher 4 point somethings. That's a 5th starter who's done it before. That's got some more upside than downside to his most recent, performance. So, that one aspect of it, not bad. Topa, I really like, and I'll give you the conclusion first. My conclusion is I like the deal. I think the 2 best components of the deal, and it may turn out to be the young right-handed hitting outfielder, but the best components right now are Topa and cash. Yeah. I think it was amazing that they got a 5th starter. They got Topa, who I really like. I mean, here's a right-hander, middle innings reliever guy that can come in and get you outs. I like his arm. I like his stuff. I like the movement on his sinker. He's a ground ball throwing machine. I did see him pitch against the Twins a few times last year. I didn't know him much when I saw him last year. I thought, man, I like this guy. And so I was real happy to see him in the deal. The cash is a big deal because, for obvious reasons. But I think the steal is that they got the 4 players they got plus cash. I think on balance was a huge deal. This Gabriel Martinez dude looks like, I mean, he's a right-handed hitter, which they need. Another young outfielder looks like he's got a lot of power. I've seen some video of him hitting the ball out of the ballpark to right center, which, as you know, I love. Guy being able to hit the ball to his opposite gap. And the young pitcher, who knows? I think there are I've read some things about him where people love his arm. And I've read some things that said, his stuff is deceiving. He throws 95 or 96, but, essentially not enough spin, not enough life on his fastball. It is a concern that I think he's 23 years old in A-ball. So you look at that and go, well, don't know. But I would say getting a fifth starter that's a big league starter, getting a young outfielder who looks like he's going to be a real good hitter, you don't know, but looks like it, and getting a reliever of Topa's caliber. As I thought about that, man, the Twins made a pretty good deal based on what I think must have been what was going on when they were talking to people. If that was the best deal they could get, as I look at it, I think they kind of stole it. That trade, and I think that's all things considered with Julian and Brooks Lee in the wings. Probably for this year and beyond, pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think so. As I wrote the other day, it's a trade that is designed to make the average Twins pessimistic fan bonkers, right? Because you didn't get the number 2 starter, you didn't get somebody to replace Sonny Gray. You got cash, which is an admission that you need cash under your payroll constraints. And you can just see the average Twins fan going, what are these idiots doing? And the Polacks are so cheap. They had to even get money in this deal and all that. The reality is the reality. The reality is they are working under financial constraints right now, especially until they get a TV deal. And Gabriel Rodriguez gives them 4 guys in baseball's top 100 prospects. I saw ESPN's ranking. The Twins are one of 2 teams with 3 of the top 30. That's Walker Jenkins, and that's even without Royce Lewis and Matt Wallner, who are already and Eddie Julian, who are already considered big leaguers. That's Walker Jenkins, who people project to be a star. Emma Rodriguez, who people are comparing to Juan Soto because he has tremendous power and also tremendous plate discipline. And Brooks Lee, who will be in the big leagues at some point this year and will give them and could end up being their everyday second baseman at some point. Then you slot in Rodriguez behind them. Now they have 4 of the top 100 prospects, and they all have tremendous offensive upside. That means that you have some hope for the future. It also means if the right pitcher becomes available and you are willing to trade in these people, you have a backlog. I'm not sure they are willing to trade in these people, but it gives them that option.
Oh, it absolutely does. It gives them, if Brooks Lee becomes a big leaguer, right, quickly, Eddie Julian could be in the mix for a trade as well. So, I mean, they've done it again in terms of, filling a need in okay fashion at the big league level, the 5th starter. They got a nice reliever, and they once again have plussed up their minor league system with a real prospect, as you say. I called him Gabriel Martinez. Sorry, I meant Rodriguez.
That's okay.
And I have a different view about the cash. So DeSclafani, I think, was set to make $12 million.
Yep.
And Polanco 10. So getting whatever they got, $6 million is what I read. And now you've got a 5th starter for $6 million, essentially for $6 million. They get a TV deal done, which they probably will get at some point in time, and they still have trade chips. I think that cash was a it doesn't sound like much, but I don't think it was about the Polans being cheap. They need cash. I think it was about, we can trade $10 million Polanco, who's 30 years old, for a 5th starter that's a big leaguer that we're going to pay essentially $6 million. And we're actually not out of the realm of possibility of making a deal here. So I just think it turned out just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. We'll talk about the Corbin Burnes trade later. I'm interested in what you think Brooks Lee's upside is, because he's going to be the first of the top prospects to get to the big leagues. He'll probably be up at some point this year. And when I look at it, yeah, Eddie Julian could be a trade chip. He could start the year as your second. He's probably going to start the year as your everyday second baseman to see how it goes defensively. One thing that this means to me is Alex Kirilloff better get on his horse, because they have a lot of other people they could slide over to first base if he isn't able to be healthy and produce this year.
Yeah, it's really true. I've thought that for a while. And I think with regard to Brooks Lee, he came up, he was drafted as a shortstop. So what that means is, he ought to be able to play second base, right? I mean, that's just
Yep.
that's just the way it is. If you're athletic enough to play shortstop, then second base, once you just get used to it a bit. I mean, there are some adjustments to make in terms of seeing the ball, come off the bat, from the other side of the field. That's a little different. Making a double play, that's different. Although that learning curve is ridiculously eliminated because nobody slides into anybody anymore. So he's a fairly strong, husky guy. He's got a shortstop arm. He stands on second base, catches it, and fires the first with impunity. I mean, it's just not an issue anymore. And so really it becomes, in my view, it becomes, well, okay, I haven't seen him enough. How athletic is he? I'm assuming athletic. I mean, can he dive for? One of the most important plays for a second baseman is the ability to dive for a ball, because you have time to dive and catch it and throw people out. Robbing potential base hits. Is he good at that? I'm going to assume, after having played shortstop his whole life, he is. So there's a lot to think that if he lives up to his offensive projections, that he could be a terrific second baseman in all phases for the Twins. So I would anticipate. I mean, I don't think that his offensive ability is too overstated. I think people are comfortable with the fact that he's going to be a big league hitter. So you throw a switch hitter into the second base spot like Jorge. I mean, that's one of the best things about Polanco, was how good a hitter he was and able to do all the things I just talked about at second base. Now you got another switch hitter who's younger, who's making less money, and has real offensive potential. Both Julian and Kirilloff are competing with Brooks Lee this year, in my view, and we'll probably know by June.
Yes, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this roster shakes out early in the season. They're going to have a lot of options. They could end up having a surplus, which, of course, again, always creates possibilities of midseason trades. Let's get more on this trade, the Corbin Burnes trade. A couple other topics here. We do want to let you know we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius, wishing you a happy new year. And happy, how can we be only halfway through winter? Want some good news? Now is the time to replace your old furnace and AC with a new high-efficiency whole home heating and cooling system. Because at Aquarius, you can install it now and not pay a penny until next year. Visit AquariusHomeservices.com and schedule your free estimate today. Financing offers subject to available credit. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Also want to thank longtime sponsor of many shows on the network, TSR Injury Law, 612-TSR-TIME. They are sponsoring the John Krasinski Show this week, Saturday, 7 p.m., February 3rd. That's right, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Chris Finch, Timberwolves coach, possible Western Conference All-Star coach, will be visiting us 7 p.m. at Head Flyer Brewing in Minneapolis. Very nice of Chris to come out and spend some time with us. He's always been a classy guy. It'll be a blast. Those shows always pack the place, so get there early if you're interested. Head Flyer's got a lot of space, but it will fill up. Also want to thank Twill and the Edina Galleria, my favorite men's store. They've been having a 40% off sale on stuff they're trying to move out of the way for the next season. They don't have many sales, and it's high-quality stuff. I highly recommend stopping by, twillmn.com. Let's say this before we move on. Polanco was a very popular figure in the Twins organization for a couple of big reasons. Number one, nice guy. Number two, he was very willing to play through injuries. He asked to be in the lineup, and not everybody does that. And number three, he would play anywhere. He'd play any position they asked him to play. He was a great teammate, a great member of the organization. So I think trading him was a good idea, but he certainly made a lot of friends while he was here.
He did, for all the reasons that you say, and in addition, when he was healthy and right at the plate, he was one of the better offensive players the Twins have seen in a long time. And the kid could just flat hit, and had maybe 4 or 5 years of getting some of the biggest hits for the Twins of anybody, in those 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's just a really, really solid player and a good guy. And played hurt and play anywhere, unselfish, all of those things. On top of the performance, I'm going to miss him, and I'm really sorry to see him go. I don't by any means want to give the impression that I'm anything but sad to see him go for the people for the trade deal that the Twins got. I just think that at 30 years old, with the guys they have coming up behind them, with the economics of the game, with what you have to do, and this is a great example of what you have to do, and the decisions that have to be made by the front office of trading somebody before they prove to you that, we should have traded them a year or two earlier than we did. I mean, you have to have the courage to say, this is a really good player, and we probably need to move on and get the most value that we can for him now, because this might be the best that we get. You don't know that, but you can't know the future. I mean, everybody who ranks trades are doing it after the fact, right? And so you really don't know, but you have to be willing to say, oh, this could look bad for a year. I mean, Polo could go to Seattle and tear it up. I mean, he absolutely could. And frankly, I hope he does. I mean, I love the kid, and I hope he continues with his career. But these are the kinds of decisions that, front office guys are paid to make and be right about most of the time. And you have to be willing to do it.
And right after the Twins trade Polanco for a starting pitcher and a relief pitcher, the Baltimore Orioles are going for it. They trade a package for Corbin Burnes, who only is under contract for 1 year. They're changing ownership. The Orioles are obviously going for it. I love that. But it's also another one of those deals where, the team that didn't get the obvious best player right now in the deal, they're probably going to come under some criticism. It doesn't mean it's not a good deal long time. The Orioles get Burnes. The Brewers get shortstop Joey Ortiz, number 63 MLB Pipeline's number 63 prospect. He was the 6th best prospect for the Orioles. He was kind of blocked by their current talent there. They get a left-handed pitcher, DL Hall, and they get a draft pick. Again, if you are saying, I need to grade this trade right now, of course the Orioles win it. They get a great pitcher. What do you think of the Brewers' haul, given their circumstances?
Yeah, I don't know an awful lot. Let me rephrase that. I don't know anything about the guys they got. I'm not a minor league maven here, but for every knows knowledge about every or any major league team's prospects. I will say this. Again, they're doing what they had to do. They have 1 more year left. Burnes, you would think, would garner a big value in return, but he's under contract for 1 year. At the end of this year, he's going to make a boatload of money. The Brewers felt like they had to move on from a boatload of money and get the best prospect that they could. And I will say that I don't know anything about Joey Ortiz, but if he is MLB Pipeline's 63rd best player, I love trading a pitcher for a shortstop. If he becomes a big league player, then it's a wonderful trade. Sam, we won't know. I mean, we won't know. It sounds like they think he's going to be a real big league player. And I'll just tell you what Gene Mauch told me one time when I was a kid, way back when, and the Orioles, Frank Robinson was with the Cincinnati Reds, and the Orioles had Milt Pappas, and they made a deal. Pappas for and Pappas had a good year, and you probably remember this, but Pappas was a good pitcher, had a good year. Orioles traded him to Cincinnati for Frank Robinson. I loved Frank Robinson with the Cincinnati Reds. I couldn't believe they traded him. I thought, well, I asked Gene about it. I mean, I'm a kid, and I said, "What do you think about that deal?" And he said, "Well, personally, I love it." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Milt Pappas can beat me once out every 5 days. Frank Robinson beats me every single day he goes out there."
Yep.
And so you get a shortstop that's going to be a big league player every day, and you don't have to be forced into paying a pitcher huge dough in a year. And I think you made the right point. I mean, the Brewers aren't necessarily thinking about putting all the chips on the table for this year. So it very well could turn out to be a really good deal for them too.
Old guy admission here. When I lived in Baltimore, I got to see Frank Robinson play right field, and I got to see Johnny Unitas play quarterback. I'm old, but there's some benefits to being old. I got to see that. Frank Robinson was an incredible player. Frank Robinson, I never got to know him well myself, but I, had opportunities to interview him over the years. But he was the Baltimore Orioles manager when they had that incredible losing streak to start a season. What was it, 18 or 21 games or something stupid? They had no chance. They were going out there every night. Frank Robinson, great player, Hall of Fame player, obviously top tier Hall of Fame player, is managing a team that can't win a game. And I knew the guys who were covering that team, the beat writers, Richard Justice, Ken Rosenthal, and I'm blanked on the third. And Timmy Kirkshin. Believe that. One major league beat had Ken Rosenthal, Timmy Kirkshin, and Richard Justice. Richard Justice, one of the great beat writers of all time. And Frank was so good with them. It's such an easy situation for the manager to be cranky and not want to have to answer any questions. Those guys would all go out to dinner together, and Frank would just, tell them stories about the old times. So I have not for personal experience, but I have a very soft spot in my heart for Frank handling that situation the way he did.
Oh, he's such a wonderful guy. And matched only by his historically great performance as a big league player. I mean, you're right, top tier Hall of Famer, certainly top 10, maybe top 5. Who knows? He was in that way. Anybody that thinks he's not at least in the conversation for top 5 player of all time would indicate how truly underrated he has been over time. People, and I don't know if it was because there was Cincinnati and Baltimore, but he was there, leading Baltimore, to some really good seasons. So, I don't know why it feels like he was a bit underappreciated, but if you don't think he's in the conversation for, one of the top 5 Hall of Famers ever, then you really weren't paying attention.
Yeah. Great player, great competitor, great power hitter, could do everything well. Phenomenal player and a great guy again. Hey, you hit on a topic that I think we're going to hit hard next week. And that is that the Twins here, I'll put it on T. The Twins seemed to hire Derek Falvey because he was instrumental in the drafting and developing of so many good Cleveland pitchers for one of the franchises that specializes in doing that. And yet, since he's been here, it feels like the Twins in drafting and even sometimes in trading, well, mostly drafting, they seem to prefer the everyday player with offensive upside. Let's get into that subject next week. Again, this is Chin Music, part of TalkNorth.com. Hope to see some of you Saturday at Head Flyer Brewing with Chris Finch, 7 p.m. For Brandon Morton, Roy Smalley, I'm Jim Souhan. Thanks for listening to Chin Music and TalkNorth.com.